This video is brought to you by Shop Controller. Shop Controller handles all aspects of running an auto shop from appointment to invoice.
Manage jobs with custom workflows, statuses, and categories. It can help you get paid faster and gain access to accurate labor times.
Hundreds of shops use Shop Controller. Check them out in the link below.
Today we've got the drag race literally tens of people have been asking for. Keith, what do we got?
We've got our 1915 Ford Model T and our 1931 Ford Model A.
That's right, it's TNA today on TFL Classics.
Not the kind of TNA that's going to get us actual views.
All right, let's talk about these cars, Case. So, 1915 Model T, what you got under the hood?
I've got a 2.9 liter four-cylinder. Cooling is kind of optional. It works sometimes. And I've got a 2-speed transmission that uses bands. It's some high-tech stuff.
The funny thing about the Model T is you may or may not have a 2.9 liter because the casting process was so imprecise. You might have a 3 liter, you might have a 2.8, you never know what you got.
Yeah, imagine a whole 100 cc's in tolerances.
Now this Model A, this got a 3.3 liter four-cylinder, a whopping 40 horse, so 20 more than that Model T, and I got a 3-speed manual with a conventional clutch, and I have this innovation called brakes, which is pretty cool when you're actually operating a motor vehicle. But Case, your design looks sportier.
I know. I'm in a Roadster. You're in a pickup truck. Plus, I've got 23-inch wheels. You're on 19s. This just screams sport car.
Plus, you got staggered tire setup? Look at that.
It's like a 911, dude.
Dude, it's like a Porsche. Now, in seriousness, I know we're going to get some comments. It doesn't matter what the top of these cars look like because all Model A's and Model T's were virtually the same underneath. So if Case was in a truck or if Case was in a sedan, they would all be virtually the same mechanically. Same thing with Model A's. So, basically, they're kind of like Legos. You just switch the top. Now, Case, because we are doing an old school race, I think it'd be fun to do a Le Mans start. What does that mean?
Well, that means we're going to start standing next to our cars and we got to get them started and go.
Heck yes, and we're about to prove a point as to why the Model A is the superior automobile. First of all, check this out. The Model A has a driver's side door. The Model T has only one door on the passenger side.
Well, aren't you cool?
I know. Already winning. Check that out.
Oh, the ingress and egress on both of these vehicles is not ideal, if I'm perfectly honest. How far are we going?
Dude, right here. That's it. So we're gonna have to run up to our cars, then we're gonna have to get them going, then we're gonna have to make it to the end of the quarter mile before either of us catch a 1920s disease like cholera or tuberculosis. All right, should we do this? All right, in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see, with a faster runner, Case tried to cheat immediately. Typical early teens fashion.
Oh, I gotta get underneath my car.
All right, I gotta go. Fuel on, underneath the dashboard. We're gonna make sure the spark advance is in the right place, fuel is in the right setting, a little bit of throttle.
You definitely
put the
should
switch
not do
on,
this.
have a key, Case doesn't. Then
With 2 hands like this. What?
Woo! Oh no! Why am I not starting?
Because you don't know how to drive, Tommy.
Dude!
A blazing start. Woo-hoo-hoo! The rush of doing that. I've got my timer going. Start to the quarter mile.
What am I missing? Start! There we go. I got some work to do. Park and brake off. Here we go. In the Model A. In the second.
Come on. Up T. Trying to figure out my spark advance.
She didn't want to start, but I think I can still catch him. There he is. He's coming up. That's 40 miles an hour.
Oh my God! How did he do that? That's ridiculous.
Oh, just blew past him. Woo! Holy moly! credit where credit's due to Case. He got that T started in record time. I had some trouble getting the A started. I think I was a little flooded off the line there. But it was pretty impressive.
Wow. That was a rush, for sure. Oh man, good time too. That was a 45-second quarter mile at 30 miles an hour across the line. I'm not that good at driving this car, as Tommy is, but maybe if my start wasn't so abysmal.
Dude, I'm so embarrassed you got that T started before my electric start.
Well, I was really happy with my ability getting it running, but my actual driving of it, I was messing around with the spark advance, I could hear it missing, and it took me forever to take off the line. But you caught up to me in a big way. That thing is fast.
This thing hauls butt. What'd you do in the quarter?
I did a 45.18 at 30 miles an hour.
I did a 26.51 at 46.
So it is faster.
It's faster, but let's see what happens if you can get a better launch. We'll get rid of the Le Mans start, and we're just gonna go for it.
Something tells me I'm not gonna be much better off.
Let's see, we'll see. All right, Case, race number 2. We're both starting from a running position. Both cars are going, and I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1. Actually, I'll use my horn, like street racers do. On the third one, we'll go.
Yeah.
I think that's what they do in street racing. I'm not cool enough to know.
I mean, if you also just say 3, 2, 1, I'll hear you.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Since these cars are so quiet.
So we got parking brakes off.
About to.
You ready?
Hold on, hold on.
So these are called dusters. These are what people used to
Oh,
drive
it's starting to boil over a little bit.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll get some heat into it.
No big deal, it's normal.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, Case got a good launch. He is no match for the A though. Double clutch in a second. 20 miles an hour.
Oh, I'm actually catching up to him a little bit. No, well, yeah, not anymore. All right, I'm not even upset about it. I'll tell you what Tommy can't do. Only I can do that.
I'm going full spark advance. In the third. He's in my review mirror.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a good quarter mile time, too.
Make it a little richer, get some more horsepower out of that 4-cylinder engine. 50 miles an hour. That was 28 seconds in the quarter, but 51 miles an hour. Jeez.
My track speed wasn't the same, but this quarter was 37.91 seconds. A spectacular time. People are going to talk about that. I shaved, with a little bit of practice, 7 seconds off my quarter mile.
7 seconds in a quarter.
I did a 37.91.
Well, let's do this, Case. I think the roll race. Do you want to do it, or are we just going to prove nothing?
Heck yeah, we're going to do it.
All right, well, let's go do it. We'll prove once again the...
We were never going to prove anything in any of these races.
All right, we'll go do a roll race for the fans, and then we'll go do some other fun tests.
Then again, I say that if you're cross shopping a Model T and a Model A, it's worth consideration that Model A is faster with double the horsepower and a whole lot of gear. That is the best consumer advice I think I've ever given in my 4 years at this job.
Of course, hitting insane speeds of over 30 miles an hour requires some fresh rubber, and let me show you how we changed the tires on this Ford Model T.
So we have a flat tire in our Model T, which was pretty common back in 1915.
Yeah, but funny enough, they didn't necessarily make it easy to swap them out.
Model Ts have this one tool that will allow you to do just about everything with one go. So the first step is to take off the brass hubcap.
Yeah, it is a very fine thread pitch.
Yeah. So what we got here is a
Castle nut.
castle nut with the collar pins. Let me grab you a set of pliers. You can pop that out.
Beautiful.
Sweet. Oh. Well, that was a lot easier than it was supposed to be. All right, next step is getting that tire off the wheel, and this is where the fun begins.
Ooh.
Next step is to pull the valve core out of the valve stem. So what we need to do now is break the bead. And here, we can stick this in the middle. So what this took on the last one was quite a bit of jumping around to like kind of loosen it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it looks like that's working.
That was working pretty good, actually. And then we're gonna flip it over. I'm gonna do that side.
Sure.
This is the side that fought me on the last one. So what you do is actually just go in with the tire iron, get it in there and just manually pop it like that. So we got the tire debeaded, and now what we're gonna do is start the process of actually taking it off the wheel. So this is where you gotta use your tire iron. So you basically gotta get in there underneath the bead. Imagine it's 1915, you're stuck on the side of the road and rain and fog. Got to send a messenger to your wife and 19 kids saying the harvest isn't going to be done in time because I can't get home because my Model T tire went flat. And to think they didn't give this car a spare wheel, so this is just like what you had to do.
Hey, yeah. Real easy to get the wheel off. Not really easy to get the tire off. These tires look gnarly too.
Dude, they are old. What's the rule of thumb? They say like change tires every 13 years.
Yeah, every 50 years.
I think these have been on since seriously the 70s, probably.
Yeah, because this car was restored at one point. I'm not doing anything. This might be the worst looking tire I've ever driven on.
I believe you drove 40 miles an hour on it.
It's
Not great, is it?
No.
But the thing about these tires, Case, is that they're not really the ones holding the air, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So you're not really risking a blowout as long as your tube is good.
It's a good thing we don't have some 4G autos on this Model T.
Oh!
Beautiful.
Way easier with two people. That was awesome. And check that out. There is our Model T wheel.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
We had a guy inspect our wheels, and he told us that most of them were in pretty good condition.
So Case, we went ahead and did a light refurb on the wheels, sanded them down, restained them, and then painted the rim.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
They look pretty good. I'm sure that the folks going to Pebble Beach next week are doing the same exact thing
Oh yeah.
to their $1 million cars. So these wheels and tires use a set of inner tubes, basically like a giant bike inner tube. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to get these things all powdered up.
Oh yeah, a little baby powder.
So we're gonna put some Gold Bond on, or some, whatever you got, baby powder. And what this is gonna do is essentially make these slipperier so that they don't get stuck in the rim.
Oh yeah, it does. Tommy, this is a strange process.
This is. Now, I actually did not come up with this process. There's a YouTube channel called the Fliver Channel. He has some really great videos and a super good mechanic. And he suggested doing this, and we're about to use some really weird tools to put this tire on.
Well, it smells good now.
Yeah, it does. So now we're going to take our tires. Let's talk about these tires, Case. So these are provided to us by our friends over at Coker Tire. And Coker is the go-to resource for classic vehicle tires. And these are called non-skids. And the reason they're called non-skids is because they say non-skid all the way across the tread pattern. But they're a reproduction Firestone, which is exactly what they would have used over 100 years ago. So basically what we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to get the tires started, and then we're going to go back to our zip ties. Okay, so we're going to try to squish the tire onto the rim. All right, Case, now this is something else. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this big old trash bag and we're gonna throw the wheel and tire away and buy a new one now. We're gonna take this and we're gonna slot this between the wheel and the tire. So grab your side, kind of pull it back. Yeah. And what this acts as is essentially a really slippery lubricant because the two sides of the bag are
Right.
really, really soft.
Slide
Now,
past.
there's a bunch of other ways you can do it. Like I was doing some stuff with dish soap before and a lot of other lubricants you can use, but the trash bag seems to work the best. Hey! Okay, so now this is the part that the YouTubers don't tell you how to do, is get the bag out. So
Yeah.
far, easier or harder than you were expecting?
I
about
don't think
the
I
same.
really had, any expectations.
Expectations going in?
I don't think my expectations were for it to be easy.
Yeah.
It is a pain in the ass, that's for sure.
This is kind of just part of driving a car back in the day. So Case, usually we do a roll race from 30, but if we try that with a Model T, you're gonna be about halfway down this 4,000 foot runway. So maybe roll race from 10?
Yeah, that sounds good. 30 has been my trap speed for both of the last two runs. But I think your speedo actually works, sorta. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's better than my lack of a working speedo at all.
All right, cool. So I'll accelerate. We'll just start moving here. You ready? And we'll see, I don't know, 7 miles an hour. We'll do the roll race. Riveting video. This is the kind of stuff that Matt Watson at Carwell simply doesn't do. This important consumer testing. That's 10. All right, in 3, 2, 1, go. Has he accelerated? Oh yeah, he has.
Pull away from him. Try not to hit the video guy. Come on.
Double clutch in the third. I'm just toying with them at this point. This Model A is that much quicker. I mean, he's going faster than a horse, maybe. Maybe. Nothing compared to the Model A, though. Just cruising at 50 miles an hour now. And across the line like it is nothing. All right, Case, you want me to crank you up?
Heck yeah, dude.
Cool.
Tommy can demonstrate here, probably, the proper way to do it, which is not putting both hands on it like I did for the drag race, but I was in a rush.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
a modern
really-
man with a place to be.
You really want to make sure your thumb is out of the crank, just in case it backfires, so it doesn't
Break
take your
wrist,
thumb out.
yeah.
Unfortunately, on mag, you're not supposed to windmill it, but without a battery in this car, not want to hook one up.
Oh, look at that. That was pretty good.
All right. You have your phone on your Case?
Oh, I sure do.
Imagine a cell phone in 1915, what people would have thought of you.
They would have freaked out.
Dude.
They might have burnt you for being a witch or something. I don't know.
So I'm going to show these folks with this phone what it's like to drive this car. We've talked about it before, but it really is a unique experience. So Case, you got 3 pedals. What do they do?
So the left one is first gear and second gear, so it's kind of your shifter.
Uh-huh.
The middle pedal is reverse, which is pretty hard to use. You've got to, especially if you got kind of bigger boots on like I do, you've got to hold the left pedal in the middle position in between the 2 gears and then push with that pedal to go into reverse. This is your brake, which kind of works. And then if I push down on this left pedal, then we start to accelerate into first gear, get it revved up a little bit, and then if I let it out and hang out, that's second gear. And my throttle is actually here next to the steering wheel.
Yeah, and then what's that one do?
That's my Spark Advance, which I'm still kind of figuring out. You've actually driven this car quite a bit at this point, and I feel like you're getting a pretty good sense of where this car is happy.
Well, one of the things that I'm learning is really helpful is instead of having to like hover your left foot over neutral, you can actually use the handbrake, put it in the middle position, and what that does is it holds the car into neutral, and then it doesn't activate the rear brakes. So it's a pretty clever little unit there. But Case, I mean, what you gotta understand, this car was introduced in 1908.
Yeah.
And this was a fairly advanced automobile in 1908. Keep in mind, the typical pedal we know today was not standardized until well after this car was invented.
Yeah.
The problem was Henry Ford thought he had built the perfect car and didn't want to change it or innovate it. So when this car went out of production in 1927, it was woefully outdated.
Oh yeah, it was very antiquated. Evidenced by the vehicle that really replaced it in Ford's lineup. Obviously there were other vehicles in between this Model T and that Model A, but that was the popular vehicle to follow this, wouldn't you say?
I'm really not sure there was other Fords. I mean, Ford did like the TT truck, but it took his team of folks and a lot of pushing by his son Edsel to finally convince Ford he had to build a better car. Because keep in mind, Case, by 1927, this car still had 2 speeds in the transmission,
Yeah.
which were activated by bands, no front brakes,
Yeah.
wooden shelled bodies with a metal skin over them. I mean, they were so unbelievably antiquated, but it was not a hard car to drive, because what you gotta understand, they built something like over 8 million Model Ts.
Yeah.
And this was the car most Americans learned how to drive in the early 20th century. So this whole 3-pedal setup we know today, that would have been the weird setup, because the majority of folks learning to drive in the USA were learning to drive with this weird, unconventional thing that we know today.
That's true, but the difference between this Model T and that Model A that followed it, as far as being modern, being drivable, being easy to use, the difference is staggering. It's unbelievable to think that this car was followed up by that. If our movements from one model to the model that replaces it today were this big, oh, it would be unbelievable.
Unreal.
Everything is, by comparison, very incremental changes these days.
I mean, to put it in perspective, the Model T really doesn't have brakes.
No, honestly, engine braking is your best tool for getting this car slowed down.
So the way the brakes work in this car is when you push the brake pedal, it simply tightens a band in the transmission that loosely slows down the rear wheels. And then there is an emergency parking brake, which does next to nothing.
Yeah, it's really mostly the engine braking that's actually going to slow you down. It's funny that, too, the material of that band that is the brake, my all the way right pedal, that's cotton, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a leather cotton thing. Yeah, the modern ones are Kevlar, but the old ones, like this car has, are still this composite, not even composite, this naturally sourced, like, cottony material.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, driving a Model T is closer in relation to driving a tractor, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But funny enough, the steering actually is pretty quick, and this car does really well on bumpy dirt roads, which is no surprise because that's really what it was designed to do. But it doesn't look like it would be comfortable going down a bumpy road. It honestly is.
Incredibly so, yeah. We've got essentially a transverse leaf mounted front and back, which just
Like a C4 Corvette.
Well, okay, maybe, but it soaks up every bump. The downside is there's no such thing as handling in a Model T.
No, these wheels, these wooden wheels, are pretty strong as far as being able to put weight down on top of them, but their strength for cornering those kind of forces, not incredible.
And a lot of Model T accidents, this door, pop it open, that's not great. A lot of Model T accidents happen because people try to turn too fast and the spokes simply give out.
Yeah.
You really got to drive a Model T like you're driving a baby stroller. You can go kind of fast in a straight line. You really don't want to turn with any speed though. You basically come to a crawl, make a turn, and then accelerate again.
But it is cool to drive.
Really cool, yeah. Not super easy to drive in any kind of modern traffic, not convenient in any way, but an experience that every car guy needs to have at least once in their life. And the cool thing is, Case, cars aren't super valuable. These things are pretty affordable.
Ours was just over $10,000.
Yeah. I mean, this the best Model T is realistically going to be cheaper than the cheapest modern car.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a pretty affordable way to have a cool experience and 100% road legal. All right, let's go check out the A. All right, Case, so we've driven both the A and the T quite a bit. how would you say they compare?
Well, it's definitely more intuitive for a modern driver to drive the Model A just because our controls, like you said, are configured the same as they would be in most modern cars. But the thing about this, as you're showing, is that this is an unsynchronized manual transmission, so you gotta clutch out between gears. You can't really shift this very quickly. And I think in the drag race, actually, I was getting from first to second quicker in the Model T than this was.
That's a great point, Case. You know, the Model T, if you've never interacted with an automobile, I think is easier to drive smoothly than a Model A, because it's a lot like a static drive on a tractor. It's a planetary gear set, and you just kind of push the pedal down and it goes. Whereas the Model A, there's a certain amount of
Tough part.
finesse you need to get it to drive smoothly.
Oh, for sure. It takes some practice, and it's amazing when you watch people that are really experts with Model A's operate these vehicles. They get them started like that. They get them from one gear to the next like that, smooth as butter, and it takes some practice.
Yeah, and you know, I've driven this car quite a bit, or a truck I should say quite a bit, and I still have a long way to go to do every gear change without grinding. But like we were talking about, the left pedal is the clutch, the right pedal is the gas, and the middle pedal is the brake.
Yeah.
Now speaking of brakes, there are 4 of them, and they're on all 4 wheels.
Yeah, which makes you think it must stop really well. But actually the brakes on this are also, they're not that great. Now, one thing that apparently, from what I read, people would do back in the day, because these are mechanical brakes, they're linkage, right? They're not, it's not a hydraulic brake like a modern brake. But some people, I guess back in the day, or at some point after these cars were built, would sometimes convert these to juice brakes, to hydraulic.
I mean, the problem with mechanical brakes is they go out of adjustment and then the vehicle stops wonky, as is kind of what's happening with this, where it kind of pulls and wanders. However, in a panic situation, I would much rather be in an A than a T.
Still better off. Your best braking in this is actually with the brakes, unlike the Model T that brakes best with engine braking.
Oh no!
Are we out of gas? No, we gotta have
Gas? What's going on, car?
Ian probably has no idea the predicament that we're in.
Come on.
I'm just gonna go out and say the Model T ran the entire time and only boiled over a little bit.
So hot today.
It is. It's very hot.
I think it's just I'm running it too rich.
You know, I do think there is a degree to which the Model T is a little less picky than this car. And also, definitely, not that these are difficult to work on, but I think in some ways, the Model T is probably even easier to work on than this.
I mean, yeah. I kind of think you're right. But Model Ts, there's not a whole lot you can do with them.
No.
Unless you completely swap out the entire drivetrain. Engine,
Which defeats the purpose.
Yeah, engine, transmission, and rear axle, because they're very antiquated.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
For sure.
There's just not a lot you can do with the T without swapping over everything.
No, at the end of the day, if you actually want a car that you're going to drive around town, maybe take to dinner every now and then, this is the better one for sure. But if you have a little bit of property and you just want something interesting and unique, those Model Ts are in a lot of cases less expensive even than a nice Model A.
Yes.
And definitely more unique to drive, and in some ways a little bit easier.
And they're more fun, I think. The A's are, look, if you've never driven a pre-war car, this is gonna rock your world. Because it is so different and weird compared to anything post-1950.
Yeah.
But if you have driven some older cars, this feels like a pretty standard experience, right?
Well, because this kind of was the standard back then.
The standard. I mean, they only built these cars from 28 to 31, and they built like over 4 million of them. And then,
so it goes to show, it's pretty popular.
the thing about these, as Case kind of alluded to earlier, these are more expensive than Model Ts because they're usable. But having said that, they're not as expensive as some of the later 30s Fords that got that flathead V8.
Yeah, a 32 Ford with a flathead V8 is obviously going to be a lot of money. If it was a factory flathead V8 and a car that's still all steel, you're gonna be in for a pretty penny.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Whereas you can get a really nice Model A for $15,000.
Yeah.
The trucks like this one are typically the most expensive in the general scheme of Model A's. There's some special editions, but these will typically command in this shape upward to 20. But you can get a nice driving Model A for $12,500, $13,000.
Absolutely, and they're really cool cars.
Which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It still is significant money, but compared to the grand scheme of classic vehicles, they're dirt cheap.
For as iconic as these are, not that much money. And if you are into the idea of hot rodding, there's some really cool period correct hot rod parts for these Model A's. So some fun to be had with that as well.
And if you want to go over 50, you gotta get a Model A.
Yeah, not that this is necessarily a great steering vehicle at over 50 miles an hour, even with ours having rebuilt steering.
Yeah, even fully restored, it's not exactly a handling machine,
But it'll do it.
it'll do it.
Yeah.
So Case, Model T versus Model A, which one do you think is cooler?
If I was going to buy one, I'd buy a Model A just because they're a lot more drivable, a lot more usable, but this is a way more unique experience.
Yeah, right. I mean, driving down the road, you get a lot more attention and thumbs up in the T just because it looks like something out of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. The Model A is a little bit more conventional, and you can use it on roads.
Yeah.
Versus dirt tracks,
Yeah.
where that was built for. But I mean, for me, I think the T is a lot cooler. It's also just a much different experience than anything else you will ever drive ever. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Which one of these two would you prefer? And as always, this has been Tommy.
And Case, thanks for watching our pointless drag race.
Yeah, we'll see you on another equally pointless TFL Classics video.